Okay, welcome back, guys. Did you have fun playing around with those patterns? Good, good. Now it's time for us to start putting that pattern knowledge to work and creating our famous t-shirt and pants combo. Now, the reason why I teach you pants and a t-shirt is because it's pretty much the basic clothing that you will use in Marvelous Designer. Basically, and once you learn how to make a pair of pants and a t-shirt, you can pretty much get the idea of how to make any other kind of garment, because Marvelous Designer was made for, us. It was made for people who know how to use patterns and people who don't know how to use patterns. Basically, if you are a seamstress, tailor, pattern making, clothes making person in real life, and you know how to draft patterns, you can just use the polygon tools and create a pattern right here, and it'll work exactly the same thing, because that's what Marvelous Designer was originally for. It was to test patterns in a 3D space, so you don't have to send them to a pattern maker to see it and work in real life and all that jazz. But we 3D people saw it and realized its potential can make clothes, and so they updated it so that you can just pretty much draw the shape of the clothes, and it will work just as well, if sort of okay. I mean, the exception for it is a few kinds of skirts and dresses where you actually have to use some sort of knowledge when it comes to making it, but you'll see that later on. So we're going to go with something simple and just make a t-shirt. If you don't know how to pattern a t-shirt, that's fine. All you have to do is just draw the shape of a t-shirt and one will form on the model. All you have to do is just edit it so that it looks right. So we're going to start with making our t-shirt pattern. We're going to need a front and a back. We're going to use We're going to use our all-in-one pattern for this, where it's the t-shirt, the bodice, and the sleeves all in one pattern rather than being separate into two. Now, this is okay, but it's fine. But recently I found that making the two-part pattern where it's a bodice and a sleeve separately have been more flexible for avatars, because you can come back and modify it into other garments. But for right now, we can just do the all-in-one first, and then we'll talk about the two-part. So let's dive into it and start making our one-part t-shirt. First, to make your one-part t-shirt, you need to first select your Create Polygon tool. Then we're going to start in the middle of our avatar right here on this line. This line is called our split line or our fold line. It's the direct center of our avatar, and it makes it easier there to make sure stuff is symmetrical. So we're going to go down the line to where the neck is, how deep we want the collar of the neck to be, and then click and make our first dot. Then we're going to drag it over at a slight diagonal angle and click on the shoulder. Then we're going to go down and make another one right at the end of the shoulder, beginning at the top of the arm. Okay, actually, I think that was the clavicle, then the shoulder. There we go. Technical terms. Next, we're going to make our next dot is going to be how long you want the sleeves to be. So we're going to make it a little bit longer to compensate for shrinking. The next dot is going to be how tight we want it against the arm. You always want to give it a little bit of length, that way it's not clipping inside the body. So we wouldn't want to put it right underneath the arm, but maybe a little square and a half down. Then we're going to go underneath the armpit, and then down to how long you want the shirt to be. Next, we're going to go back to our center line, and then back up to the first dot. And then that's our t-shirt pattern. So we need to flip it. Well, flip is not the right word. We need to unfold it so that we have the other side. We're not going to sit here and create another side of the garment when we can just simply right click on the line with our edit tool and select unfold, and it will fold over and give us a second side. Now, if you're a little crazy like OCD and need to have this thing straight, you can just manipulate it with our black arrow, our transform, and straighten it out if your shirt kind of goes over to the side. Now, one thing I want to do is I want to remove the fold dot that was created right here in the middle, because we don't need that extra seam line. Next, we need to create the back side of our pattern, which is supposed to go back here. We can do that by simply right-clicking on our front pattern and press copy and then paste and then click. There we go, shirt. Now we need to do a little bit of editing. And what I like to do is I like to select the dot right here in the back, and I like to delete that. That way we don't have a drooping V-neck in our collar. But if we use our curve tool in the back, you can bend it down just a little bit, and it makes a little soft collar. You can do the same thing with the front of your shirt if you want to. Use this to dictate how your collar looks. It just makes it look a little prettier than having the point. And there we go. Now we have our front and our back pattern, and we just need to flip it around so that we can put it behind us. So here's a little tip. Whenever you're putting anything behind you, well, they may have changed this in other Marvelous designers, but in 2, when you put anything behind your avatar, you need to right click on it and flip it horizontally. That way the faces are facing the proper way. As you see, the dark side is showing that this is the wrong side, and the white side is the right side. If we were to just put the pattern behind the avatar without flipping it, the back side of the avatar would be invisible, and then we would have to recalculate the faces in Blender when we're done. So now that we have our pattern in front of us and back of us, it's now time for us to begin sewing. So to sew in Marvelous to sew in Marvelous Designer, you just need to select the segment sewing tool. Now next to it is the free sewing tool, but don't touch that. That's wild and dangerous, and you can't handle that kind of power yet. You want to stick with a nice, safe segment sewing, and sew that way. So when you want to select the segment sewing, you want to take your mouse and select the edges of the pattern and click. Now we're going to tell this tells Marvelous Designer what parts to sew together. So we're basically telling Marvelous Designer, take this edge and sew this edge back here together with that. And when you click it, you'll see a form of lines forming on the pattern. Now, it doesn't matter if your lines are a different color than mine. It's all the same. Marvelous Designer just shakes it up sometime, so you don't have to worry about it if yours is different from mine. What you do need to worry about is that the lines are nice and straight. If you were to select the edges and you click it and the lines are crooked like this and twist it, then that's telling Marvelous Designer to take this edge and pull it together and then twist it in the middle. And then next thing you know, it's going to start eating itself and, errors all over the place. You want to make sure that your lines are nice and straight. Now, if you did make the mistake of twisting your lines, you can just press Control Z a couple times and you'll go back, and then you can just re-sew your lines and make them straight. Unlike this. There. Okay, now let's say you accidentally twisted your lines. Okay, now that I want them straight, twisted, it goes out straight. That's funny. Okay, so let's say you accidentally twisted your lines and it's too late for you to Control Z. You can easily fix that by selecting this tool right here, the Edit Seam Lines, and right click on the twisted line and then just press Reverse Seam, and it'll straighten out your lines. So now all you have to do is just continue sewing along the edges, sew in here, sew in there, making sure that you leave your armholes open and your neck holes open, so your arms and neck can go through it. Okay, so you got everything all sewn together, and then we press play, and then you see it goes on to your avatar. Now, because my avatar is white and the fabric is white, you can't really see what that looks like. So we're going to select these and give them a little bit of color so we can see it. So go back over to your 2D window, select the front and the back, and then go to the fabric tab, and then you'll see color, and then we can just change the color to whatever we want to make it easier to set. Now, I'm sure some people are looking at this and thinking that this shirt looks a little low poly, and yeah, it does, because it is. We have a particle distance. Now, here's the thing about particle distance. Particle distance determines how many triangles Marvelous uses during this cloth simulation. The lower the particle distance number is, the higher the triangles, the higher the number, the lower the numbers. By default, in Marvelous Designer, you get a particle distance of 20, which is absolutely fine for tall avatars, normal avatar size, like the basic human shape. But when you're working with smaller avatars, 20 can come out like this, so you probably need it to be like 15 in order to get it to come out to what is the equivalency of 20 is for a regular avatar. Which is why I made that big avatar in the first place, because sometimes it is easier to work with a large avatar and then shrink the garment down in Blender and work on it that way, rather than working on a small avatar like this, because you need more particle distance. It's worth saying that the lower the particle distance number is, the more triangles that they have to use, and the more triangles they have to use, the more stress it is on your computer to simulate all of those triangles. So my advice is, if you are having a hard time with this and you find that you're lagging while you're trying to create, use the bigger model of it, and that way it doesn't take as many triangles to make clothes for it. Unfortunately for me, I forgot to upload that in here, and I already started working on this one, and my computer's running pretty fine, so we should be good. So now we have our t-shirt. It's time for us to make some pants. So I'm just going to select these two and kind of move it up a little bit, so that way I can keep on working, keep on keeping on. And just like the shirt, we're going to just select the polygon tool, and I'm going to start as high as I want the pants, down in between their legs, make a backwards L against the other leg. Your line is going to be how long you want said pants to be. Across is going to be how tight you want it to be. Next is up on to the thigh, then the hip, and then back to the first one. Of course, that's going to happen. If your clothes, you can still simulate it and your clothes bounce off, just hit the rearrange pattern and it'll pop back up. So we're going to unfold it, and then we're going to zoom in and we're going to remove this extra crotch dot here. That way we would have less to sew. Then we're going to press Control C, Control V, and then make a pair of pants. Then we're going to right flip, put it behind you like we did before, scoot it on over, make sure your butt's up there. Alright, now we're going to start sewing. Making sure to keep our lines nice and straight. No twisted lines here, please. Thank you very much. Oops. Okay. Next, we're going to push our pants up to this, and then press play. Oof. Now, you see the problem is our pants will slide down the body, and that's not good. We will need to do one of two things. Actually, we need to do one thing, and that's to increase the stickiness on the body, because sometimes that happens. So I'm going to press play, unpause the simulation, and then right click on our avatar and do avatar properties. Now this is where you get to fix the way your pattern rests on the body, or more or less how the patterns interact with the body. You can use the offset and scroll it up a bit, and that pushes the clothes away from the body. This is great when you keep clipping all the time, or you can pull it down and then have the clothes. I think you need you need the simulation to play to see how it actually interacts. Okay, so I'm going to leave the skin offset back at 2 or 3, because I don't feel like that. There we go. And I'm going to turn the skin friction up to 1, and I'm going to do the same thing with the kinetic friction. And now the clothes will stick to it like glue. So let us try to do that again. I'm going to put the patterns around the body and put it here, and then right there. I'm like perfect, and it's all the way over there. Alright, then we press play. And you see now the pants don't slide down the body. It's nice and tight against the body. All is well. Now, one of the things that we could talk about real quick is, is riding up, is layers. Now, as you see, these shirts and the pants are on the same clothing layer, which makes it do, well, this is fighting for dominance on the body. So let's say we want to have the shirt on top of the pants. We simply need to just increase the layer onto where the shirt is. Currently, they're always on layer 0 by default. So all we have to do is just move it up one. So select your clothes, both the patterns, the top part. So we want to have the front part and the back part selected. Then we go to the layer and then select one. And then now it's up there. So let's see what happens now. Well, it still falls a little bit, but yeah, I don't know why that's doing that. Why is it rolling? Yeah, okay. So we can also introduce pins. So you want to click where you are, hold down W, I think. So you press W first, then you click. And it creates a little orange dot. And we can just use that to hold our shirts down when they start rolling. Just press W, and then click, and then drag. And pull it down. Yeah, I'll show you roll. And do the same thing on this side too. There we go. Now it may be pointed out, but don't worry, we can fix it in Blender later on, or just adjust it. There we go. Okay, so now we have our shirt down, not being silly. Or, sometimes maybe we want to have our shirt tucked into our pants. We just do the same thing like we did before and then change the layer from 0 to 2 because the other one is 1. And now you see the pants are on top of that. Of course, the pins are now eating through the pants, but we can just do detach pins from remove pins from avatar, and then we don't have that problem. So yay, clothes tucked in. Ignore the jiggling, it's fine. There's nothing in there to worry about. So that's really how you learn about layering. Oh my gosh, it wouldn't be one of my tutorials if something wasn't going wrong. So yeah, that's how you make a pair of basic clothes. As for the UV map, this is your UV map for this whole garment. So you don't have to worry about trying to unwrap it or anything like that, because where you make your patterns, that's your UV map. So we have our shirt and we have our pants, and I think that's it, right? It's time to export. So let's export our garment out into an OBJ format so we can put it back in the Blender. So we're going to go and navigate to our project folder, which is on my desktop, and Bladencat project, and we're going to name this one Tutgar. The mighty Tutgar, fighting crime. Old caveman thing. Alright, so I want to uncheck this one, the object avatar shape. All we need is the cloth shape, and then we use united UVs, remove the cloth triangle. Welding depends on whether or not you want it. I really don't click it, but it's okay if you do. And we want to scale it back at M, and then hit OK. And that's it for Marvelous Designer. All we have to do is import it over into Blender and, start rigging. But before we go, let me show you how to save this so that in case you want to come back and make some modifications or some more garments or maybe pass it to a friend, this is how you'll be able to do it with everything already intact. So what you do is you go up to the top and you go to File, Save As, Project. Not garment, like some people tell you, not pattern, but project. This will save everything into there. The avatar, the garment, the pattern, everything. So select project and then save it as, toot or whatever you want. And then that's how you save your Marvelous Designer file so that you can go back and edit it and then look at it later. So that's it for this Marvelous Designer tutorial. We can now close this, and I'll see you guys in Blender.